Welcome to the Etsy Conversations podcast, featuring inspiring interviews with Etsy shop owners, hosted by Ijama Elazu.
Hi, and welcome to the Etsy Conversations podcast. I'm your host, Ijama, and I thank you for joining me for another episode. This week, we're crossing the pond, the lake, the everything, and I have another international guest who I am really happy to have on the podcast because she lives in Nigeria and she runs her Etsy shop from Nigeria. And I know you've probably heard me mention on the podcast that I'm originally from Nigeria. And my guest is Amayo. She runs the Etsy shop Southern Pantherrr. And just in case you want to hop over and take a look, it's Panther with 3 R's at the end. And we're going to talk about why there are 3 R's. So Amayo, thank you so much for being my guest and welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thank you for having me.
You are welcome. So before we start, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself, what you make and sell on Etsy, and how you even ended up on Etsy?
Okay, my name is Amayo. I am 27 and I live in Calabar, Nigeria, and I'm actually a trained filmmaker, specifically in sound design. And how I got into jewelry, I guess, was I took a summer course, like a really short thing when I was still in high school. And then I sort of moved back home from uni and I didn't really have much going on. I was like, okay, well, I guess I could do this then. And so that's how it happened. And yeah, Etsy, I think I joined in 2016. I want to say July or June 2016, because I don't even remember how I heard of Etsy. But I knew about it and I was just like, well, it's like handmade. So I make handmade jewelry, basically accessories. So bags, jewelry, necklaces, earrings, that kind of thing. Yeah.
That's great. So the class that you took or the course that you took, was it in jewelry making?
Yeah. I mean, I say class, but it really was just like my mom's friend who was paid to teach me to do
That's a class.
Yeah. Okay. So she would come around and me and my sister, and it was just basic stuff like necklaces and stuff. But I realized I was really into it. And it was just, for some reason, I thought I had learned it over the years. And my mom told me, no, it was just one summer. It was not 7 years. I was like, okay, then.
It felt like years of learning.
It did. It really, I thought I was doing it for years, but apparently it's just one summer. So, yeah, it was just basic necklaces that you string together, not even 3 layers or anything. Yeah. And so a lot of it is self-taught, through YouTube and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So then, would you say that you're completely, or you have completely left the filmmaking industry, or is this something you do in addition to working still in the film industry?
It definitely started as just a side thing. Okay, there are no film jobs at the moment. So, but at the moment I put on the same level. I still want to do film stuff. I still have some things in the works, sorry. But yeah, I put you on the same level. At first, everybody would tell me, because Nigeria is a bit different in that what you went to school for is what your main thing should be. Everything is just a side hustle kind of thing. So everybody would be like, yeah, don't forget the real thing. It's just a side hustle. But now I think I should treat it with some respect because it has supported me for, the last couple of years, and it's something I enjoy doing. So, I would say it's on the same level as film.
Oh, that's very good. Now, before opening your store, or right around when you were opening it, especially being based outside of the US and in particular in Nigeria, did you have any concerns or reservations about joining a global marketplace to sell?
This is so funny that you asked, because when I was ready, I was so excited about Etsy and I had no reservations whatsoever. I was like, yes, it's gonna be fine. I'm going to sell everything, because I think the Western market has more of an appreciation for handmade African goods sometimes than we, because I guess we have so much of it around us. It's just no, I'm tired, So we're consuming different things. So I was I didn't really think I would have any issues. I was like, yes, it's gonna be fine. But yeah, when I joined, it was very different. Like I encountered so many things I never thought about.
Mm-hmm.
Like I encountered quite a few issues actually. So yeah, it's a steep learning curve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing I'm really curious about is how you handle shipping.
Yes. I was really worried about that as well. For
Mm-hmm.
some reason, I did not think the Nigerian Postal Service worked. And it's so funny because they work really well actually. I was worried about it, but then I was like, I'm just gonna put my first product on, and then that's how I did it. I put my first product on,
Mm-hmm.
and then I told a friend who was living abroad. I was like, okay, can you just order like through the website? Like I need to test everything. So I went to the post office and it worked. It's just because it's international,
Yeah.
things can be a bit deep, but then there's a currency difference. So, like £5 goes a long way,
Right, right.
in our currency, that kind of thing.
Yes.
But once you get, and my things are small, that's a good thing as well, because they're like necklaces, earrings, the smaller the thing you're sending, the cheaper the postage. But as soon
Yeah.
as you get to like bags, that's when, costs go up and you have to compromise somewhere.
Right. But you're right. I think the currency difference makes it the exchange rate makes a big difference, because if it's a currency that has higher value, for them what you would charge in shipping wouldn't be as significant as it would be if you were perhaps, say, making a local sale.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, great. Okay, I've always been curious about that. Like, well, how would somebody ship? So it's good to know that that you can rely on the postal system.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny because so many things you don't think will be issues can be issues.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just the way I did it was I tested a bunch of things. Like I said, I got my friends to order, but I
Mm-hmm.
also just sent out things to people so I would see, because it's not like everything is so much more automated, like in the US or in the
Mm-hmm.
UK. You can go online and calculate things. You can't really in
Mm-hmm.
Nigeria, so you kind of
Yeah.
have to manually test everything.
Yeah.
So I had a friend in Trinidad, and I was sending just like a small package to her, and that was the most hilarious thing. They don't send to Trinidad. It actually had to go through
Oh,
Brazil, so that took like 3 months.
you're kidding. So then that's interesting. So then do you go into the countries you ship to and then adjust where you'll
Yeah.
ship to, because
So like
based on
as
where
soon
the
as
postal service will take them?
Yeah, basically, as soon
Wow.
as I'm doing, like, I just go by region.
Mm-hmm.
So like the Caribbean is a longer shipping time because they tend to reroute, like all some of the smaller islands, they reroute to like South American countries. So they basically send to Brazil, and then Brazil will bounce it back like this is not a Brazilian address, and then they'll send it to the right country. It's very odd. It's very,
Wow.
very odd.
And are you
Yeah.
able to track all that?
Yes, there is. You can track it, funnily enough. It's
Okay.
just that tracking goes on and off.
Okay.
Yeah. So you can always track it, but like
Okay.
like I know products that I send to the US, once they leave Nigeria are not trackable.
Okay.
And then
Yeah.
some of them like France will track all the way. So it's
Oh,
just
wow.
it's very fun. So lots of times I will just track it on my end,
Okay.
and then I'll just tell the customer, like it's on its way kind of
Yeah.
thing. Because if a customer is seeing like something that hasn't been updated in weeks, it's really like scary.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
good that you stay in touch, because I know that goes a long way in
Yeah.
just, just keeping people updated, and the lines of communication open help to just avoid customer issues down the road. And
Yeah.
especially with international sales, I think people are a lot more understanding of, varying mail systems and shipping times.
Yeah. I think that as soon as sorry,
Go
I
on.
think that as soon as someone orders from my store, they allow, like, they're very aware of the time and they allow the time because it's slower mail,
Yeah.
and all that. So, like, I think as soon as they've taken the chance to order, anyways, they are giving me the chance to sort of take that time out, and they understand it, So it's not
Yeah.
like oh my God, why is my package still not here? Usually it's like, oh no, it's fine, I understand. It's
Yeah.
on the way. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I ordered something once, and the seller was in South Korea, and
Yeah.
it took, oh, I want to say, not only were they in South Korea, but they were back ordered, and I didn't get it for like 2.5 months. But I just figured it was it was because of the distance and all whatnot. But then add to that they were on back order, or there was a production delay. But for me, I just felt like, okay, it's part of the deal. As long as nobody's running off with my money, and I'm going to get it in the end, and I did.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's just something you factor in when you're
Yeah.
doing business internationally.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, when I was excited to join Etsy, but that's the thing I didn't consider, because as like it also puts lots of people off,
Mm-hmm.
shipping time.
Yeah.
And then also it's like it's coming from Nigeria. It's just like, okay.
Yeah.
Like people are less willing, like as opposed to maybe if I was in the UK, which is like, yeah, so they have a good working postal system and things will arrive much quicker.
Mm-hmm.
So that was one other thing that I realized people were just like more unsure of
Yeah.
ordering. Orders the import in, because distance is also a thing. Like sometimes someone just doesn't want to wait 3 weeks for a package, and
Right.
it's fair enough. But yeah.
So let's talk about how you manage your time. What does a typical day look like, just from start to finish running your business?
It's actually really time consuming, because I literally do everything. So I'm updating social media, and I'm the one
Mm.
taking pictures, and I'm like monitoring Etsy, and I'm also physically delivering things as well.
Hmm.
So usually the first thing I try to get in is an Etsy post, an Instagram post, because once I've done Instagram, then that's on there for the day, and I don't really need to, yeah. And then I'll try and catch post office if there are orders I need to deliver. And then, yeah, photography takes a lot of time for me. I tend to work a lot at night, so my hours are very, very, very odd. So lots of times it's at night that I get ideas, and so I will be actually creating products at night. Like, so I'm a night owl,
Yeah.
basically. Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm glad you mentioned Instagram and taking care of your social media posts in the morning, because one of the things I found interesting is when you started your shop, well, not your shop, but when you started your business, you actually started in 2015, and you only had an Instagram page before you started selling on Etsy. Were you primarily making your sales through Instagram first?
Yeah. So my town is well, let me call it a university town. So it's a small
Mm.
town, and it has two big universities. So I had friends that were in university at the time,
Mhm.
and I had made these necklaces. I just made them for fun, and they're like, "Oh, why don't you try selling it?" And they had showed their friends, and so it was like word of mouth. That's how I
Mm.
made my first sales. So everything started off of Instagram, and I would put pictures up, and people would be like, "Oh, I want one, I want one." And
Nice.
so because it's university town, like lots of people in the same age,
Mm-hmm.
group, and like with the same fashion sense, I guess.
Yeah.
So that's like how I made my first few, sales. So that was fine. And then I was like, shouldn't I be aiming higher than this? So that's when I considered like having a proper online presence, but also because sometimes when there's like a platform where they can order and everything like that is taken care of, you don't need to be on Instagram responding to direct messages, because it's
Yeah.
like it's kind of a tedious way to run a business actually, when people are like directly ordering off of your Instagram. So I was
Mm-hmm.
just like, okay, I need a physical, like an online store kind of thing.
Mm.
Yeah.
That helped to streamline the whole process. You have
Yeah.
a dedicated messaging system, and it's not just, well, I mean, I guess people can message you at any time of day, but at
Yeah.
least it's all contained somewhere where it's trackable.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong, Nigerians still direct message me. That's always going to be a thing, you know.
Yeah.
Etsy tends to be like my sales on Etsy tend to be international.
Okay.
And then Nigerians just tend to just still order from Instagram. I think that's primarily because Etsy doesn't support, like, it's just pound, dollar, like Naira is not a currency that's supported.
Oh,
So
right. Yeah.
yeah, so Nigerians just generally are not trying to order from there.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
That makes
that's
sense.
the thing. Yeah.
So let's talk about your creative process and your designs. First of all, where would you say the inspiration for the different designs you come up with comes from? And then when you do get an idea for a new product or a new design, typically what's the life cycle from when the idea occurs to you to actually making it and then having it up and ready in your shop?
My inspiration tends to come from the people in my town. A lot of it comes from my culture directly, actually. And so I'll see something. Lots of times it'll also be something I've seen growing up. Lots of times, yeah. So it'll be like, oh, what if we had this? But like, okay, so there's this traditional beading that we do. And I was like, oh, what if you had the traditional beading on chokers? That kind of thing. And usually I have no self-control. So as soon as I have an idea, I have to do it there and then. Like I have to, like literally, I'll have an idea and I'm already in the market trying to buy supplies and start with them. And it doesn't matter the time. Like I'll be up at 3 a.m. just trying to see if it works. So usually I'll get like into a frenzy and I'll make, I guess, the prototype. And then there's like a cool-off period where I'm testing it, I'm carrying it around and I'm seeing if it fits in line with what I'm trying to do in a couple of months, because lots of times when the year starts, I have an idea of things I'm trying to do. I'll be like, okay, I'm trying to do earrings, I'm trying to do this. And if it doesn't fit, and then maybe it might go on the back burner, something like that. But yeah, so there's a frenzy point, there's like a frenzy, and then there's like a cool-off period, and then there's like a release, like where I fully, like properly make the product.
So you create a prototype, and is that what you photograph and put in your Etsy shop? And then when you get an order, you make more, or do you keep an inventory of everything that you have just so they're ready to go?
I definitely do not photograph the prototype. Prototype is usually the messiest thing ever. I use the prototype for a bit and then I make more. So because my schedule is so funny, because, like I said, I'm a filmmaker, so I never know when I might have to be on location or something. So I tend to just make a lot. So I have an inventory and then I put it up. So that's what I tend to photograph. I'll make an inventory, I'll put that up so that if I am away, then someone else can fulfill like deliveries for me.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's
that way, it's not made to order. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, if somebody did want a custom design, like say, for instance, one of the beaded bags that you make, I know over here, people have favorite sports teams and the sports teams have colors and, people get really crazy over supporting their teams, using accessories that use their team colors. Are you able to fulfill custom orders like that if somebody likes the design but has some preferences as far as like color and things like that?
Yes, I do. I mean, a big thing about my store is trying to source things locally. I always try to source them in my town first, and then I look to the rest of Nigeria. So lots of times people will ask me like about specific colors. I do that. Like I do custom orders, like if you ask me, but lots of times I'm sort of limited to what I can find. So like, it would be like, oh, I want this particular. People are very specific as well, which is lovely, but also scary because they'll be like, I want this shade of blue and it has to be just like that. And, and then you can't find it. And it's just like, oh, I'm sorry. And usually they never respond after that. It's like, whatever.
Yeah.
So I do, I like to accommodate people, especially if there's an extra charge, just like a tiny bit extra for a custom order because, like I said, I do inventory. So I've made all these things and like that means I have to go back into the making process. So there's a tiny custom order charge. But yes, I do tend to accommodate people. Like I will do different colors of things if I can find them. But it's always dependent on whether I can source them or not. That's the only issue.
Yeah. So speaking about charging for custom orders, which I think is very reasonable because, they're asking for something extra. It's like personalization. A lot of sellers will charge. And you know, an added fee for personalizing a product. How do you decide or determine the final pricing for your product? And I noticed that on some of them, you also offer free shipping. So how do you have a formula that you use to determine the pricing, and how do you determine which ones you'll offer free shipping on and which ones you won't?
Okay. Actually, the way I got my pricing was through Etsy. So I don't even know how I costed things before I joined Etsy. I probably just maybe I just did like
You
custom
felt like,
materials.
it's
Yeah, I was just like, okay,
yes,
this looks like it could be
yeah,
this amount, you know. But then Etsy had told me, I can't remember where. So I feel like when I was signing up, and they give you a formula, and it's like costs plus time times
yeah, they
this,
do. I
they
know
pop
what you're
up.
talking about.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. So I actually just use that formula. And lots of times for like slightly smaller things, I'll just do free shipping because with the conversion rate, it sort of adds up, because the pound, the dollar is always higher than the naira.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then for heavier things, though, that's really stressful because once they're like past 8 kg, shipping rates are crazy. So those are usually the things that cannot be free shipping. But like smaller things like just a pair of earrings or something that can be free shipping. It also encourages people, I found, free shipping.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Everybody loves that free shipping that really isn't free, but yes, we'll pretend it is free. Do you spend any time looking at other shops that might sell similar items? And if you do, what are you looking at? Not so much designs, but are you looking at their photography to get ideas on how to do your own product photography, or what if at all you do look at others, what do you look for?
In the beginning, I did used to look at others. Like I actually did like follow a bunch of people that were doing similar things on Instagram, but I found that that's not healthy for me because lots of times, I was just new, like in 2015. Gosh, I mean, I wasn't even up to 3 months into the thing, and I was following someone who had been doing it for like 11 years or something
man,
ridiculous.
that's the
Like,
worst
God,
thing you can
and
do
it's
for
just
yourself.
the worst thing. And I had all this envy, and I was just like, how can you even be comparing yourself to somebody who has been hustling for so much longer than you have? But I find that I'm always paranoid. I try to be as original as possible, so I tend to not follow accounts that are doing similar things, and because I don't want to somehow, because you never know, like you can subconsciously be mimicking everything they're doing, and you might be positioning of the bag and everything. I'm always trying to be as fresh and as original as possible. So lots of times, for photography, like I'll get a friend to help me out and be like, okay, I need you to hold the bag like this. We'll just go through like a few basic poses that I like to do, and then they'll just try something new. Like I'll just be like, okay, move around, let me see, and I just move things around to, find. But I have read a few articles. It's just like, or I'll Google something like posing a bag or bag pictures, and then because Google Images will just come up with a bunch, and so you just scroll, just get ideas. As opposed to like, following accounts, I tend to use Google Images a lot because advertising and all these websites have all these photography for products, and you're doing some, so it's like, it's just there for you already.
Oh, I never thought about using Google Images to get ideas for product placement and, product photography. That's brilliant, actually.
Yeah, because if you just Google, I remember when I was making the new backpacks that are in the store now, I was just like, okay, backpack posing, and I just Google images, and that it just comes up, and it's images, so it's like visual, like, and you're just like seeing a bunch of them, and you're getting ideas immediately.
Nice. So do you also, in addition to using social media, do you have a website that you perhaps blog on, and if you don't right now, is that something that's on the horizon, or it's just not even in your plans?
I definitely considered it. Like in fact, when I started Etsy, there was a Tumblr that was running as alongside it. But then I realized I wasn't posting enough because there was too many things I was trying to do at once. But I did consider doing like DIYs and tutorials because I know it's not just, it's a good idea to sell your product, but it's also a good idea to teach someone something because that's what, when you're sharing information. But then it's really hard because it's not like I ever stick to one. So if I taught people stuff, I'd be teaching them how to make exactly what I'm doing, because I follow this one account, I think on Instagram, I think the name of her store is Strawberry Puff Cake. And I think she is on Etsy, and she does all these really cool tutorials for, resin jewelry, resin accessories, I think. Yeah. So she'll do like how to make a donut and stuff. But like it's weird because if I did how to make this necklace, you would literally learn how to make the necklace as opposed to how to make a donut. There's so many techniques that she's using, and she's not telling you where she's getting her supplies from, but mine is like pretty standard, It's like I'd be giving everyone the cheat codes. But it's something I'm really considering because I would like to spread information. I mean, people are always telling me, like when I do like local fairs and stuff, they're like, oh, do you teach, And I just know, I'm like, no, because I know I'm terrible. I have no patience. So like, I do think I would like to teach people in this way, but I just don't know how to integrate it yet,
Yeah. I there's an episode of the podcast I'm thinking about, and I don't recall the exact episode number, but I'll look for it and I'll link to it in the show notes for this episode. And we talked about for makers like you who have a skill, how to, without actually telling people this is exactly how to make exactly what I'm selling, but teaching people the same skill so they can expand on that, and creating like tutorials, and they don't even have to be live. You can make a PDF with step-by-step instructions so that somebody, even if they just want to do it as like a hobby craft, they can do it at home. But then when they want the real thing to, like a real choker to wear out, with, serious clothing, then, they'd come to you because you make it so much better. But for people who just want to, for fun, make a necklace, does that make sense? Where it's like...
No, that totally makes sense because like, I really have considered, especially for things that I've discontinued. So I know I'm not making those anymore. But also, yes, just because we're makers, right? You can't actually think that lots of people want to sit down. It's actually
no, and that's the other thing. Not everybody wants to sit down and craft something. Some people are perfectly happy to pay you to just make it and then send it to me.
So you're just paranoid, like, oh, then what would the point of me be? Because then, but really, lots of people do not want to sit down for even an hour to make a simple necklace, that kind of thing. So it is something I'm really considering, especially for things that I know I'm no longer doing and have been discontinued. So I think I might integrate it. I might just do it through YouTube because that's a whole other platform,
Yeah, YouTube is a whole other. Do you have any experience selling on YouTube? I know not many people I've talked to on the podcast use YouTube as an outlet. Do you have? Do you currently use YouTube to do any type of promotions or?
No, but that's the thing. I want to integrate it because I did. A couple of friends of mine and I, we were doing a YouTube series, and. It's actually really tedious. Like, it's funny. People just watch YouTubers and they go, oh God, content is so repetitive. YouTube is very hard. You know how you, oh, okay, yes, every 2 weeks. Everything is hard. Even just recording a podcast. I know this because I've tried something different. Everything is hard. And, bloggers, everything is hard. Once you're on a schedule, it comes by so quickly. Because you'll be like, oh yeah, I can do 2 weeks. And it just comes by so quickly. So, I have a bit of experience just, I guess, YouTubing where we're creating content, but then that fell through because everybody was like, this is harder than we thought. So no. I'm thinking about maybe doing that through YouTube as well because YouTube can bring in so many people as well.
Yes. Yeah, I think YouTube is great for that, especially when you're making, because people love to just watch people make things, even if they don't
Yeah.
make them. Like I like watching people cook. I might never make the things that I watch people cook on YouTube, but I just enjoy seeing them make it and, dreaming that I might one day eat something that looks that good. But
And I found that lots of people who make on YouTube, they sell a lot because, people watch them make
yeah.
and appreciate
Mm-hmm.
the work that goes into it. And then it's like, oh, well, I can definitely pay for this because I've seen the process, that kind of thing. So
Yes.
that's like a whole other thing.
Yeah. They gain an understanding of the value
Yeah.
of what it is you're making and selling, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, yeah, maybe I don't want to make it myself. Let me just go to her Etsy shop and have
it's
her
like,
make
oh,
me
wait,
one.
it's readily available, so I don't have to spend 2 hours trying to figure out the
Yeah.
tutorial.
So I'll tell you what, like this year, I decided I'm going to focus on Pinterest,
Yeah.
And really I'm kind of neglecting other social media platforms because I really want to learn Pinterest, and I am doing that. I'm focusing on that. And I think for you, especially with your filmmaking background, I think YouTube. And you know what? It's hard. It's like you said, everything is hard. Blogging is hard. Podcasting is hard. Building your following on Instagram, anywhere, anything you pick is hard.
Yeah.
Which is why I said to myself, this year, I'm just doing one thing so that I can get proficient at it, so that I can get really good at it. And then, when I feel like it's become second nature, and that's how it was with podcasting. I actually started 2 podcasts before this one. But, eventually, and same thing, like you said, you start and you're like, oh, okay, not this week, next week I'll do it again. Oh, not this week, next week I'll do it again. And it has to be something that comes somewhat naturally to you. Like you're already making, the jewelry and, the products that you're selling. So you're already doing that. So it's adding an extra layer. But if you strip away everything else that's taking away from that, it helps. And so I think, yes, there were times with the podcast I was like, okay, I'm done. I'm moving on. And then, it's like, wait, no, I still want to do it. And then eventually you do it for long enough where it, it's almost like breathing. You're like, oh, okay. I'm going to record all these podcasts today.
Yeah.
So I think consider focusing on just one thing, and maybe YouTube. I want to see your filmmaking skills.
I know you do. I know you want to.
It's kind of selfish of me to say that, but I do.
No, I will think about it. I will, because one of the goals for Southern Pantherrr this year was like I'm literally just trying to get to 1,000 followers on Instagram. And it seems ridiculous because 1,000 followers. I think I've been doing this. I think this is our 4th year. So it's just like, why are you not? Sometimes I feel like, why are you not already at 1,000 followers? Yeah. But that's just like a simple goal I have. So I'm willing to try anything, if it means like just being a bit more consistent on Pinterest. Yeah. Or, trying out YouTube. That's fine too. I'm willing to try anything because you never know.
I think whatever you pick, and not just you, but anybody else who is making and selling and just trying to find where they're going to find their people. It's all about consistency, because I think our people are everywhere. There are people who are listeners and they don't want to watch videos. There are people who are readers. They want to read a blog. They don't want to listen to anything. They want to read in silence. There are people who want to watch YouTube. And then you also have Instagram, because you can do videos on Instagram now. So, you don't, and since you're already there, maybe that's the one you want to focus on. And everybody's saying, videos are, the way to go, because they're, tend to be easier and faster to consume. Granted, they're a lot more work than just posting a picture, but the rewards might be higher than, what you get from posting a picture.
I know what you're saying. I will think, obviously, if I do start a YouTube videos, how they do like tiny clips, like preview, on a YouTube channel, I'll put all of that on Instagram. But there's something about YouTube and like how you just reach a whole different set of people. Yeah. YouTube is just way more active in like getting your content out there, where it's like suggested videos and like, it's just like, as opposed to Instagram where you're fighting against so many other things.
Yep. Yeah.
There's a algorithm. I'm never going to get into the algorithm because
Oh,
that's the
yeah.
whole thing.
Yeah, you're right. And yeah, I think with YouTube, you can control a bit more
Yeah,
what people see. Like when your video ends, instead of them seeing a bunch of other people's videos, you can actually control what they see and make sure they see your next video. Or,
yeah,
they're only served up with content that you want them to see. But anyway,
yeah,
that's a
yeah.
topic for another episode. um, so have there been any times during your time selling on Etsy where you've considered maybe moving to a different platform or closing your Etsy shop because things just got too difficult?
Yes. Actually, that's my only issue, I guess, with Etsy at the moment is there's just some things, that I don't know if they know or are even being addressed. Like it's really simple. You cannot process cards on Etsy if you're in Nigeria.
Oh, yes. Oh, they know. Yes.
Oh, they know.
There's a list of countries that won't. So basically, you can't take Etsy payments.
Yes, I
You
can
have
take
to use
Etsy payment.
PayPal.
So I have to do PayPal.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yeah. So that's been a bit, tedious.
Yeah.
Then also it's just some things are not available. Like I I guess I'm not sure if this is relevant anymore because it's patents still a thing. When you could sort of create like customize your page, I guess. I mean, I guess now if you subscribe you can. But back in the day when pattern was new and it was like, oh
Oh,
yes,
right.
I'll make a website, and everything. I was just like, I was so excited. And then they're like, oh, this is not available in your country. I was like, okay.
Oh,
Wow.
I didn't know that. It's not available everywhere.
No, it really wasn't. Like I couldn't,
Oh.
you know. So there's just like a few tiny things where I guess Nigeria just wasn't on the list of countries to apply. And then there
Yeah.
also I guess customization. I can't customize my shopping policies as much. I don't know if that's because, there's just tiny things, like that. And yeah, it just makes it a bit more frustrating than if I thought to myself, oh wow, maybe I should just get a Shopify.
Oh, yeah.
So I have thought about it. It is something I'd eventually like to try and migrate because I think also just Etsy, I don't feel like I get a lot of visibility. Like I guess if you are making like you're an Etsy store, you're following them on Instagram, and you're tagging things, I just feel like I'm not getting as much visibility, and I'm just like maybe I should try it on my own out in the wild,
Right.
So it's just a few tiny frustrations here and there, but like at the moment, Etsy is serving me well.
Okay.
I joined for a reason, and that was like convenience. It's like I don't have to build a website.
Yeah.
I don't have to pay this like commission every time, So Etsy is good for now, but I do think eventually I will migrate to like a website where I will just have more options in customizing as well, because my orders through Etsy are not consistent enough for me to say, oh, okay, I'm going to subscribe, So that's another thing I can't really upgrade from where I'm at the moment. So,
Oh,
yeah.
wow. This is really eye-opening. And it's good to know because, Etsy is a global marketplace. So if there's somebody else listening who is outside of the US or outside of what might be considered their major market countries, it's good to know this going into it and knowing what to expect. What potential roadblocks there might be, but I'm glad that it's working enough that you're still able to stay on the platform and make sales. It's working enough for you as far as that goes, but I think it is wise to plan for the future, like okay, how if I want to scale my business, what are my options? And Shopify sounds like it's a potential avenue that could help you expand. Not to say leaving Etsy altogether, but at some point, yes, you are going to want to grow. So
it's also just the simple thing like you can't change currencies, so I don't think I've ever processed a Nigerian order through Etsy. because as soon as they see the dollar or the pound, no, that's another thing.
Oh,
So that's
yeah.
available with other platforms. Also, something I forgot to mention is while Etsy will process payments through PayPal, for you, so you receive the money through PayPal, I guess. Nigerian PayPal does not receive money.
What do you mean it doesn't receive money?
It does not receive money. Like if someone tries to send money to your Nigerian PayPal that is set up, it cannot receive money. PayPal literally tells you Nigerian PayPal does not receive money.
So what does it do? You can send
So
money, but you
basically,
can't
you can
receive.
send money and you can pay for stuff with PayPal, but you cannot receive.
Oh, I
That's
see.
other situation. So I happen to have lots of people, I guess, that will sell through PayPal, like Nigerians. I think they will also have like American PayPals. Like they'll be set up. They'll have a base somewhere else or they're else, that kind of thing. Exactly. So I happen to have, I think, a UK PayPal already. So
Okay.
that's how I receive PayPal. But then also, Western Union, stuff like that. All those other. Yeah. So
Wow.
that's a whole other roadblock you never see coming.
The struggle is real. I had no idea.
It really is real. And I guess that's not Etsy's fault, right?
No,
Because
that's a PayPal
thing,
policy,
actually.
I'm assuming.
And I think that has something to do with the Nigerian government's current policies on money and the way it's moving around the country and out of the country. So that's like a whole other issue, but that's a roadblock because, wow.
Wow.
I can only do PayPal and PayPal doesn't work.
Wow.
I get so many questions all the time, and I always tell them, oh, well, if you have another PayPal, that's the only way. Like, if it's a Nigerian PayPal, it's not going to work. I get, Nigerians messaging me like, how is your shop functioning?
Oh, wow. Man, there has to be a solution for that. I'm going to have to think about that one. I'm sure. Yeah. Okay. That's another phone call. I mean, that's another conversation. What is, or what would you say are some of the things, or even one thing that you did to set yourself up to be successful and that you found really is working for you?
What is something I did? I don't know, maybe because in my mind I haven't really reached the success that I'm looking for, but I guess lots of times I will take a trend or something. Well, I tend to also not follow trends if I can, because trends don't last long. But I would take something that I guess has come in. So like I think when I started Southern Pantherrr in 2015, chokers had sort of just come back in, and then I'll just make it different. So it's a choker, but it's like in a honeycomb pattern, and it's made of glass beads, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I find that people get tired of the same thing. So if you can make it unique to your store, so it's a beaded bag but it's square, something like that, and it's like geometric, that kind of thing. I think that tends to work for me. Also, people like handmade, like hand embroidered stuff. Embroidery is really big at the moment.
Yes.
That's another thing. Yeah, that's another thing. I actually have found myself moving more towards sewing and embroidery and, making less jewelry. So I'm moving more towards accessories, even though I still will do jewelry.
Yeah.
But I find, bags, and people always want bags. People might not want earrings, but they'll always want bags.
Yeah. You can't have enough bags. That's for sure. I mean, I know I keep saying, oh, I don't need any more bags. And then you see one that you like and you're like, I need that. I don't need any more, but I need that one.
Yeah. Another thing I do tend to focus on is I like to cover, even if you look at my store, it's in sections. I like to cover every part of the body. So it's like ears, eyes, nose, hands, so it's like, oh, okay, so you're not into necklaces, but we have earrings. Or you're not into earrings, well, we have bags, and you're not into bags, we have bracelets, just targeting all, everything you could possibly have or carry. So there's something for everyone, because I think it's really important to have a varied selection of things, because you never know. I've heard so many times, oh, I wasn't looking for anything, but this is really cool. It's just a random thing I had. Like, I'm doing keychains as well, so you never know.
Nice. Yeah. It's always nice when you make those sales where, those, I didn't know I needed a keychain sale.
Yeah. It's like, oh, this is just what I was looking for, even though I wasn't looking for anything.
I wasn't looking for it. Yeah. Amayo, what would you say to another person who is listening now and is wants to open their Etsy shop, but is not like in the US or the UK or somewhere where the barriers to, getting up and running are not as high. What would you say to encourage that person to move forward in their e-commerce plans, if at all anything? And if you would tell them just stick to your local market, that's perfectly okay too. What would you say?
I would say just keep going, because initially when I joined Etsy, I was doing so many other things. So you never know what will work. Something I've actually found that, gets views to my shop, my Etsy shop, is Pinterest, which is such a big market as well. So I tend to try everything. So like there's a Facebook, because there's a whole group of people, and lots of times on every platform, they're already there. You just need to reach them. So there's already, like, if you go to YouTube, there are already a group of people who watch a certain type of video. You just need to create the content. That's the thing about every platform.
Yeah.
I remember when I started out, people were always like, I haven't yet done it, so I can't say, but people were always like, you should do Twitter. Because for some reason in Nigeria, people sell lots of things through Twitter. So it's like, I have this. It's very odd. But apparently it's something that really works. Twitter, Facebook, Tumblr is also a surprising. I know lots of people who blog through Tumblr and then, get a following that way.
Yeah.
And then, Tumblr is also good. But also just try tweaking things. Lots of times you'll be surprised at what will work. So like maybe I had like a thing on my store that wasn't selling, and then I just typed in colorful. So it's always the terms you never think of, like, oh, okay, so I had handbag or backpack, and then I just put in colorful backpack, and then that got a sale because somebody was literally just typing in color. Like if you think of yourself as the customer, it's like you're looking for something. Okay, I'm trying to go to, maybe it's festival season, and I'm just like sparkly. People never really put things like that in, so they'll put, headband, but like, did you put in sparkly? Did you put in glitter? Like descriptive words, or stuff like that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that, because just hearing how you're making it work, I think is really encouraging. I know sometimes just the idea of starting something that seems difficult can hold some people back. So it's nice to hear from someone who is overcoming, the hurdles that are, that they might face along the way. Are there any tools or resources that you found particularly helpful in just becoming a better seller? And if not just a seller, but just better at running your online business?
Well, when you first join Etsy, they suggest all kinds of things like join a team, join a forum. And I did that, but like I find that those things don't work for me, because you have to be present. Like if you're already doing so many other things, you kind of have to be present and consistent. Like you have to check, these things, and you have to interact with people, and that's not my strong suit. So I guess like the thing people keep telling me is my photography.
Yeah.
So I do have a professional camera that my dad just happened to hand over to me, because I would never have been able to afford by myself. So I do have a professional camera, so I tend to put the details in the photography. So, and also I tend to think of, I've started recently thinking of everything I do on Instagram, because Instagram is very visual, of course. I try to think of it like, oh, I'm curating a magazine. So like you need to think of it as in it's an editorial. So think less of, oh, look at, this is a product. Like, okay, this is the inside, and this is the zipper, and it works. Think of it more, this is the lifestyle that you want. Maybe this could be you.
I've heard that too.
Because that's what a lot of, I guess, fashion brands, like, Fashion Nova, people like that, it's more the lifestyle. So it's like, okay, it's not just that we're selling this crop top set. it's also that you could be looking like this in the street.
Exactly.
You know?
You could be on the
Exactly.
beach wearing this crop top in, St. Martin or somewhere, and you're like, yeah,
Yeah.
I really could. I'm going to buy that crop top.
Sometimes I'm sure it's look exactly the same on me, even though we don't have the same body
Yeah.
type.
Yes, exactly. Even though I have like a few extra pounds on you, but that's
Yeah,
okay
but
because it's going to get me to St. Martin.
yeah, so I find that I put a lot of work into the photography. I try to be as creative with my photography as possible. I'll try new things all the time. I'll try at different times of the day. I'll try with different props.
Mm-hmm.
You never know what will also be a background. Like initially, I was always so strict. I'd get like white paper and make that the background of everything. But you never know. It could be the floor. It could be just fabric. Fabric is
Yeah.
really lots of times when you add texture into photographs and stuff. So yeah, I always like sort of take two types of pictures. I'll take basic, okay, this is the product, and then I'll also take like this is the product like with something else, or this is how you wear the product, or this is the product styled like it was a magazine,
Yeah.
thing.
I like when I see the product being worn because
Yes.
and I don't know if you take this into account because sometimes I'll look at what the person is wearing too and think, okay, do I have something like that so it can look like what I'm seeing
Yeah,
in the picture?
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And like because it's online,
Mm-hmm.
lots of times you can't physically, touch these things and everything. So you want to be able to visualize how it would look on you. So like if you
Yeah.
see it on someone else, you're like, okay, so I could style it that way too, and this could be me also.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think because I guess coming from a film background and I did a few like by a few I mean like some really cheap photography course. But so I was like, okay, well I feel like this could be something I could do well because honestly, consistency and marketing are not really. So I try to take as good. Like I will do videos. I'll do like short clips. I'll do behind the scenes is also something people like. People just like
Yes.
seeing you working behind the scenes. They also obviously in the same way they like seeing you making things. They just like to see
Yeah.
the process as well. So that's another thing. Yeah.
And I think
It's just like
you're onto
sorry.
something because even Etsy itself says, it all starts with your product photography.
Yeah.
Grab them, visually capture people and then sell them on it once you've attracted them with, that first picture. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Because I mean I've tried all kinds of things. I've tried marketing, I've tried Facebook adverts, stuff like that. And I find that lots of times those things just get you likes, or clicks, but like,
Mm-hmm.
do they really push through a sale, as
Yeah.
opposed to somebody just seeing a really nice thing, it's like, oh, okay, this is my shop, this, and you're advertising through Facebook and people are clicking or they're just mindlessly liking, because that's the problem with Instagram. It's like mindless scrolling. So people are liking
Yeah.
and they get to process that it's something they can actually buy. So
Yeah.
to them, it's just like, move on. Then as opposed to like, wow, that's a stunning bag.
Yeah.
How can I get that bag in my life? Kind of thing. So if
Yeah.
you take a really good picture where someone just keeps staring at it, like, what is happening? Yeah.
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 Nice. Do you have an Etsy shop shout out? And if you don't, that's okay. Like if there's another shop that you particularly like what they're doing or another seller who perhaps has helped you along the way or just been good to you on the platform, is there any other shop you'd just like to mention right now?
There is a shop I would like to mention,
Yeah.
but it's so biased. My mom is actually on Etsy as well.
Really?
Yes.
That's
She's
great.
a designer. She makes clothes. So she's on Etsy, and her Etsy handle is Victoria Duke, but Victoria with a K, and then Duke Duke. Yeah. So I also help her sort of like run her Etsy as well. So my
Oh,
life is
nice.
very hectic.
You're busy.
Yes.
How long has she been on Etsy?
I think just about like a year. I think she joined in 2017 because I was the guinea pig, and she was like, "Okay, if this works for you, then we'll see."
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
okay.
that's also a whole other like it's surprising how different it is. Like the needs are different, and like what people are willing to spend money on is totally different as well.
Yeah.
Because it's clothing and these are just accessories, it's a big learning. Like I've learned so much just from trying to figure it all out.
Yes,
Yeah.
and everybody who sells will tell you, you come in thinking you know something, and then you learn so much more. But I'm hopeful that you're enjoying this journey on Etsy and just learning to run a business and the skills that you need. And obviously you are, because now you're helping your mom run her own shop.
No, I am learning. Like I am enjoying the process because I mean there were a few times in the beginning where I was just like, okay, I don't think I can do this anymore. But that was more to do with just I think it was before I even joined Etsy. Just I didn't expect it. I started this business with just 15 necklaces.
Mm-hmm.
I just made them randomly. I had a pack of beads. I was like, okay, I'm just gonna do this. And my friends were like, yeah, you should try selling them.
Mm-hmm.
So when people started asking for them in different colors and like, different styles, I just was not ready.
Yeah.
I was not mentally ready. And I was just like, okay, I think I'm just gonna stop now because so I wanted to quit so many times.
Yeah.
But I think this year I really decided I'm just going to see where this goes. Like it doesn't matter what curveball anybody throws at me, even if Etsy just decides that, Nigeria is just not going to be a country we support anymore.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't matter. I'm just going to find a way around everything. Like I'm just, because it's teaching me a lot,
Yeah.
The patience is teaching me a lot of just being organized. Because if there's one thing I think about Etsy, it's like, if you don't pay attention to Etsy will, you'll lose it because there's so many things like, your listings are expiring or how is this doing statistics? Etsy is giving you so much information.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't pay attention, then you're not getting the most out of it. It's like, you need to be on it,
Yeah. I agree with you there is that, you can't set it and forget it. Because what you put in really is what you're going to get out.
Yeah.
And
I mean, Etsy will give you statistics on what percentage of people are coming from Pinterest. It really helps because it's like, oh, okay, so lots of people are coming from Pinterest. I should probably do more Pinterest posts, like there are just so many statistics that will help your general business. Like if you're just not someone that checks those things or you're just like, whatever, then it's not helpful to you because, you could be doing so much more basically.
Yeah. I agree. So I'm going to link to your mom's shop again for anyone who wants to check it out. It's Victoria Duke. That's VIKTORIADUKE. And I'll link to it in the show notes for this episode as well.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. I always like it when, like one family member does it, another one says, oh, okay, it's working for you. And then, they start their own thing too. So congrats to her on that.
Yeah.
Amayo, what's the best way people can connect with you if they want to get in touch with you or reach out to you somehow?
It's probably through Etsy because Etsy comes straight to my email. Okay. And I'm always with a device that has email as opposed to Instagram where I'm not always with a device that can access Instagram, So definitely Etsy.
Okay. Yeah. So again, Amayo's shop is Southern Pantherrr. That's SOUTHERNPANTHERRR. And I just remembered I was going to have you explain why you have 3 R's.
Okay. The whole thing is so ridiculous. I remember the day we're coming up with a shop name, and it was just me and like a friend and my sister, and I said, oh, what about Sunday's Best? And everybody was like, what is Sunday's Best? I was like, no, because it's like jewelry. So it's like, you wear it on Sunday because everybody dresses up. And they're like, no. So we just started writing out a bunch of names. And like, I explained in my Etsy shop, but like, there are a lot of like leopards in our mythology down here.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, okay, leopards. And we're black. So panthers?
Yeah.
That's literally how it came about. So I was like, hey, what was Southern Pantherrr? Because the way we're zoned in Nigeria, our area is south-south.
Yes.
Where I'm from is south-south. So I was like, okay, so Southern Pantherrr. Because So it's like the most literal but also most ridiculous name. And then I just put the extra R's because I feel like I must have Googled it and there was already like a panther thing. And I was just like, no, I need to make this like a, you know, and then I was also like, because it's like, roar, like extra R's for fierceness, you know, kind of thing.
Nice. I like that. Yeah. And sometimes those are the best names where it makes sense, but then it's kind of out there, but then it's not really out there because it makes sense if you really understand why it's not.
Always an entertaining story. Like every time people ask me, I'm just like, okay, so first you need to know the origin.
Yes. And it gives you a good opportunity to share that too.
Yeah.
Well, Amayo, I thank you so much for being my guest on the podcast. Thank you for taking the time out. I really appreciate that you stayed up till the wee hours of the morning to have this conversation with me. And I appreciate you taking out the time to do it.
Thank you so much for having me. I mean, of course, I was going to do it. I was like, I'm staying up. It doesn't matter how late it is. I will do this. I mean, what can you do? Time zones, like,
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I thank you for listening to the podcast. I will be back next time.
Thank you for listening. You can subscribe to the podcast in iTunes, and while you're there, please leave a review too. Visit convome.com to leave a comment or feedback on this episode.